Welcome to the stage, Mr. Chris Noone.
Thank you. It's very kind. Okay. So yeah, I do feel like a little bit of a fraud being here tonight in an event for science and comedy. First of all, I'm no comedian. I'm still kind of scarred from my recent attempt at telling a joke in a lecture. Yeah, it was kind of quiet enough after it that I could make out one student whispering to another at the back of the class, I think he's trying to be funny. So that didn't inspire me with confidence for tonight. And the other thing is I am a psychologist, as Jessamine said. So that kind of means that I think a lot of you probably won't consider me a scientist. I don't know. But I am. I'm a scientist. I swear. Okay? And I don't mean that in the same way that I would say, my mom says I'm cool. Even though she does. And handsome, too. Yeah. But I don't know why you're laughing. Okay. But save some of that for later. I'll need it. Okay. So I am a scientist. I can prove that to you because my work uses the scientific method. And just to give you an idea of how we use the scientific method in psychology, I thought we could use an example. We could work up a little research project here among ourselves. So I thought we could look at it. We need a research question, of course, first. So I thought we could look at the psychological effects of being subjected to Chris Noone trying to be funny on a sample of slightly inebriated Galway bourgeois. Okay, so we have our research question. Now we need to that's very broad, so we need to narrow things down to get a bit predictive. So we need a hypothesis, okay? And we're using the scientific method, so it has to be something that's disprovable, okay? And just to let you know what that means exactly. It's not worth studying something that isn't disprovable. So an example of a hypothesis that's not disprovable would be that somehow an effect of having to listen to me try and be funny would be that somehow an effect of that would be that your psychic energy in reaction to me trying to be funny would create an apparition of a teacup. And I'm butchering some Bertrand Russell here for the philosophers that aren't here, as you said earlier. It would create an apparition of a teacup halfway between here and Mars. Okay, so for all you know, that could be true. We have no idea because we can't measure it. So it's not a disprovable hypothesis. But as I said, I'm a psychologist, so I can measure things like emotional reactions using either kind of physiological measures or self-report measures. And so let's try a different hypothesis, something that is disprovable. So how about being subjected to listening to Chris Noone try to be funny significantly increases levels of frustration and boredom among a sample of slightly inebriated Galway bourgeois. Okay, so the next step in our scientific process in testing this hypothesis, I would have had to have measured your levels of boredom and frustration, ideally before you came in here and also afterwards, but I haven't, so we'll never know. Yeah, I'm sure it's gone great. Okay, but that's not enough. Ideally, I'd have to compare that to someone else, so we would really know that it was because of me that you're feeling this bored and frustrated. Maybe it's just your lives. We don't know. I don't know. Okay, so for that we need some sort of comparison group or a control group. Okay, so if I wanted the study to come out making me look well, I could take a bunch of you, maybe the ones I don't know, and that's most of you, and round you up and lock you in a room that has nothing in it except some paint drying, and measure the boredom and frustration before and after, and then lo and behold, my treatment effect, the difference between the experimental group and the control group, I'm sure the people in the room with the paint drying would be much more bored and frustrated, hopefully. Okay, so that's fine. That's an experiment, but it's not a very accurate depiction of reality. So what I would need to do there would be you need to have a control group that mimics the experimental group in as many ways as possible, except for the one crucial way you're trying to test. So I guess in that case we need a comedy placebo, or which I apparently am right now, which or a decent comparison might be a competent comedian, to be a measure the boredom and frustration before and after listening to either me or a competent comedian. Okay, so that's pretty much how the scientific method works in psychology and how I've applied it in my work. So to give you an idea of what my work entails, I'm going to need some cooperation, okay? So would you mind closing your eyes, everyone? Please? Yeah, great. Thanks very much. Okay, so I want you to feel the back of your chair against your back, the weight of your body against the back of your chair, if you have one. The feeling of your heart beating, again, if you have one. Okay. The feeling of your chest rising and going down again as you breathe. And if you haven't gotten the gist by now, this is mindfulness meditation. It's very, very good for you. And helps you, lose weight, have better sex, remember things better, forget things better, helps you live longer, keeps you immune from disease. The list just goes on and on. You can Google any mindfulness business and they'll tell you what you want to hear. So you can open your eyes now, it's fine. Okay, so my research focuses on the effects of mindfulness meditation. And as you may have gathered, I'm slightly skeptical about some of the effects of mindfulness meditation. It's very, very useful for some things, but yeah. So it's quite. Everyone seems to have heard of it, so it is quite a buzzword in recent years. So I thought, why not, go for broke, connect it to another buzzword. So my research is on mindfulness and critical thinking. Yeah, thanks for that. So, why study the relationship between mindfulness and critical thinking? Well, an awful lot of businesses are subjecting their employees or facilitating their employees, whatever way you want to look at it, in accessing mindfulness programs with the promises of like greater decision-making skills, greater creative thinking, problem solving, all of these things that we would consider kind of part of being able to be a critical thinker. And even universities are being encouraged to teach it to their students in order to be better critical thinkers. And there's some reasons, some theoretical reasons why that might work, but essentially there just isn't enough evidence for us to back that up yet. Okay, so that's the main reason I'm skeptical. There's not enough evidence. There's actually been fewer than 10 studies that connect mindfulness with the kind of thinking skills you would associate with critical thinking. And most of these compare mindfulness to absolutely nothing. Okay, so if you remember earlier, I mentioned that you need to have these types of active control groups that compare whatever you're studying to something that's very similar to what you're studying, but without the crucial components. And we can do that with mindfulness now. It hasn't been done that much, but we can do it now. And that's what I've been doing in my research, is comparing mindfulness meditations to what I call the sham meditations. Now, sham meditations aren't meditations for, as Urban Dictionary put it, Irish slags, or people from Ballyshannon, County Donegal. Okay, they're a type of there's something that sound like a meditation. It's said by the same person, the same kind of instructions, except crucial directions on how to control your attention. And when people listen to this, they pay attention in the kind of similar way to how you would pay attention normally during the day. So it's quite a good control. And what happens when we compare mindfulness meditations to these types of sham meditations? Well, for things like critical thinking, we find absolutely no differences between them. Okay, so the benefits of mindfulness aren't specific to mindfulness at all. Okay, So there you have it. I bet you never realized shams would be so important in research. So that's it. Thanks very much. If you want to find out any more about my research, you can find me on Twitter or ResearchGate or Grindr. Okay.